people are always asking me questions, or all of the religious girls get asked questions about how they date and how come they're always wearing skirts and why when they're married do they cover their hair and all those kinds of things. And some people think it's cool, some people respect it, some people think we're nuts, some people can't believe that we're really serious and that they think we cheat all the time.
If I was allowed to do anything I want, one day.
Yeah, what would you do?
One day, I would party. I would party. I would go to discos. I would go to bars. I would pick up women. I would do anything I could possibly. In one night.
Do you think that being that you don't do it, that you are missing out on this?
I don't feel that I'm missing out on everything, because I feel there's a higher purpose for living, and a higher purpose, and the real pleasure is in the next world. But if they're so to speak in their minds that there isn't a world to come, yeah, I am missing out. I'm missing out on all the pleasures of the world.
See, the Torah is very specific, and it makes it very clear that there's a time and a place to have pleasure. And they try to give you the most pleasure, I think, out of your life. And there's a time and a place. It doesn't mean that everything is allowed. And I'm not sure, I think that the secular world might define pleasure different than maybe, and I'm not quite sure what pleasure means. So I can't define that. I think there's maybe many definitions for pleasure. And so the Torah has a certain definition for pleasure. Maybe the secular world, pleasure means, anything that suits someone's fancy. I mean, homosexuality is forbidden by the Torah. So that if that gives someone pleasure, that actually, you're right, then there is then that person really doesn't have pleasure. So I think it's there's guidelines as to everything that there is in the Torah. That's what Orthodox life is really about. Is that there's a structure to your life, and that there's a form. There's a form.
Thousands of years ago, the Jews gathered around a mountain called the Mountain of Sinai, Har Sinai in Hebrew. And there God revealed to us the 10 Commandments. And these are the 10 Commandments that everybody knows what they are today. And also gave us what we call the Torah. He gave us a written law and oral law. The written law tells much of our history in it, and it also gives us 613 commandments. The bottom line is, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as much as yourself. It means the love that we have to have for each other, for every Jew, even for a Jew that's gone away from Judaism and is far away. The basic love, because that's what the whole Torah is built on love. If we love someone, then of course it's automatically we won't steal from him, we won't fool him, we won't cheat him, we won't lie. So those are the bottom line, the basic things that a Jew always has to worry about and be careful of. Of course, there's so many other things, watching what we eat, watching what we do, and making sure we have time to study, which is only something that teaches us what we should do. The purpose of study is so that we know what we're going to be able to do and what we can't do. If you want to understand what a traditional Orthodox Jew is, it's a Jew who follows the Torah the way it was given to us at Sinai, meaning we don't make any amendments, any changes, whatever God says, whatever we were told by those laws are the way they were accepted so many thousands of years ago. That's the way we do them today. There's no such thing as change. We can't change. If it's God's, then we can't change it. The difference between a traditional Orthodox person and a Hasidic person is very much on his outside garb, the way he looks, and that the Chassid will follow a Rebbe in particular, where the traditional Orthodox will just simply follow any of the rabbis, doesn't make a difference who it is, And sometimes he feels he's not as strict and as a regular chassid, even though he keeps every single law. A chassid may spend more time praying, but that's not necessarily true. A chassid may do certain things a little bit different, but everything sticks to the strict letter of the law. So there isn't that much difference except on the very outside.
I would say that the differences between traditional Orthodox Jews and Chassidim is, in the eyes of most people, in their dress, and then more subtle things like the Chassidim will go beyond the letter of the law in terms of modesty and dress. And the men will wear long black coats and hats that look like from a few hundred years ago. And the women will wear more flowing skirts as opposed to more fitted. And maybe if they're married, they'll wear a hat on top of their wig instead of just a wig. And they'll wear seam stockings to show and emphasize that they're covering their legs.
Modern Orthodox also keeps all the laws, the 613 laws of the Torah. They all keep it. However, there's a different outlook in life. Modern Orthodox may say, well, it's okay if you go to college, and secular subjects may be on a par with religious subjects. And they try to be a little bit more modern in the world without, of course, changing any of the laws. So there are little differences between the two. For instance, the very Orthodox may say, we're forbidden to go to college. We don't have to know secular knowledge, only up to a big point. For instance, high school is enough. After that, spend more time learning. It's only customs and traditions and things like that that really separate the two.
Ay na 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 ram ma ra ram ki ye le yailam khazdoy yoy mano wo yisero we la la ram ay na ra ram ki ye le yailam khazdoy ay yim na na ra ra di ra ra na ra ra di ra ram ki le yailam khazdoy ay la la di ra di ra di ra la la di ra di ra di ra la la di ra di ra di ra ram ay im ro na ye ra yashem ki le yailam khazdoy.
The main reason for studying Jewish law, the main reason is so you know what you are supposed to do. So a person who doesn't study doesn't know what the mitzvahs are all about. The more you study, the better comprehend them. The better you do them, the more perfect they are.
Basically, the reason why learning is very important to me is I feel that's what's keeping up the world, that's holding up the world. What the world is what the world was created for was to serve God. And serving God is the learning of Torah. For me personally, I have a meaning in the world. I have a meaning in life to serve God, and that's why I feel that I am, there's something here for me. I'm here.
Woman is not required to study the Torah the way a man has to because she doesn't have as many requirements. God wants her to take care of the house, to take care of the kids, to do other things. She has her goal in life as far as Jews are concerned, and they are not required to do all the mitzvot. And so therefore there's less studying. She doesn't have to know about all of them. She just has to know the ones that she has to know. Keeping the Shabbat, for instance. She must know the laws of Shabbat so she could keep them.
I've heard many times people from the secular society saying they feel there's a major discrimination against women. I personally feel that men and women have different roles. The men have a mitzvah, a commandment, to study the Torah day and night. Their purpose is to learn. Women have a different role in life. Not to say that they're not allowed to learn, because they are for sure allowed to and encouraged to. The difference is they don't have the commandment to study day and night because they have other responsibilities, which include raising the children, which is a tremendous responsibility.
For example, during prayer in the Orthodox synagogues, there is total separation between the men and women. Now, society looks down upon that, and different segments of the Jewish population look down upon that. They feel it's sexist and it's demeaning to the woman. But in reality, it elevates the woman as a higher being, so to speak, than a man.
People say that women are inferior because they are not able to read from the Torah. I personally feel that it goes back to the idea again of taking a more modest role, of kind of laying back a little bit behind the scenes, letting the men read from the Torah, and the women kind of standing back, being a more modest, being a type of a more modest person. The other issue with that, in terms of women reading the Torah in front of men, is that there's an issue of kol isha, the voice of a woman, and it's a problem for a man to hear a woman singing. Her voice it's seductive. It's something that a man is not supposed to hear. And when a woman sings from the Torah, that's an issue in itself.
In Jewish law, we find that people have to be extremely modest, especially in the way women dress, making sure that they don't go with sleeveless, that certain parts of the body are not open. And this is a big problem in modern society. In Arab society, amongst the Muslims, they go always covered. They cover themselves completely. So there's no problem if you live in an Arab land. But if you live here in Borough Park, or if you go on the buses and the subways, we have a big problem with that, the way people dress. They always think they're on the beach. We like the people to go dressed modestly and properly. It's quite obvious why a Jew has to be very modest, especially a woman, because a person, by looking at a woman, can get himself to get terrible thoughts and do certain things which are not permitted. And by looking at a woman in certain positions that she's in or the way she looks, a person's mind is only a human mind. And by looking at these things, you may do some of the sins that the Torah forbids us from doing. So looking at things entices a person very much.
And keeping our dress simple and not ostentatious, it keeps us distinct and separate. Not that we try to be totally protectionist, not that we don't deal with the outside world, but we need to know for ourselves that we still who we are, and we are a separate people, and we need to limit our interaction.
Well, to limit the emphasis, I would say. That dress is just a minor detail of what the real importance of our lives are. Not necessarily the outer garments, it's the inner garments that we have to be more fastidious and more careful with. We're also guided by the Torah, and we live by the Torah. And Torah is our lifeline, and we have guidelines so that our dress respect is a reminder of who we have to continue to, that is a constant reminder, whether it be a long coat that my husband wears, a yarmulke that he wears, I wear a wig. It's a constant reminder that there is a one above who watches over us and protects us and sees our every action and knows our every thought. And it's a reminder of the fear and the love, of course, that we have to have for Hashem, for God.
I have heard people express that modesty is the equivalent of being unattractive, and they feel that that must be an obligation upon Orthodox Jewish women. This is inaccurate, and if you look around, there are many attractive Orthodox women. Well, there are very specific rules and regulations as to how one dresses. The collarbone is covered, elbows are covered, knees are covered. There are variations along this, but that's the basic technical aspects of modesty.
This summer we went whitewater rafting, and 5 of us went down the river in our long dresses. Basically, it was like a long t-shirt that covered our elbows and covered our knees, and everybody else, of course, was dressed in their bikinis. So we looked a little strange to them, and we got a lot of comments. People asked us, why we were wearing these fancy dresses down the river. We joked with them that we were models for a dress company. But then when they wanted to know more, we explained to them that, of course, we were Orthodox Jews and our Bible mandates that we dress this way. And some of them thought it was cool. Some of them thought it was very strange. And for us, it seemed funny to be stared at and be a spectacle because we just felt so normal and we were having a very good time.
People from the outside look and sense with slanted eyes at our lifestyle, and they perceive that we are very restrictive and very unhappy people. Even though we may have many laws of what we are allowed to do and things that we cannot do, there is still a great deal of times of joy, of happiness.
I think that religious Jews definitely have gratification and pleasure, but just in different ways than the secular world sees. For me, it's very gratifying to sit with friends around a Shabbat table and sing with my friends, and to say it's of our Torah, a word of Torah, and to learn from each other, and just to have that bonding. And as you see, we went ice skating. It's not that we're so limited that we have no pleasure in the world. I guess it's a way of life, and I don't really feel deprived in any way.
The reason why women have to have their head covered is there's a certain modesty that one has once a woman is married. Hair becomes a sensual thing, an inducement, for example, so that it is the crown and glory of a woman's body, and it should only be seen by her husband.
The covering of hair for a newlywed is probably one of the most challenging issues. You're already making a major transition, which is now you're living with someone, you're moving out of your parents' home. You're going through that psychological, emotional piece. In addition to that, you're now asked to cover your hair, which has always been free-flowing and beautiful and an emphasis for you your whole life.
When a new bride comes to the store and she's looking for a sheitel, they're all very worried and very scared.
Oh, when I was young and I just got married, I had very beautiful thick hair and I chestnut color, and I worried a lot, how is it going to feel, how is it going to look. I had to make my hair very short, so I have to put on this wig, and traditionally my family, everybody covers the hair, so I just came and we matched up the color. And then from then on, the style that looks similar to my hair I was wearing then, was different styles and things. And of course, we matched up everything, and it felt good to be able to see that it looks very similar. Of course, it didn't feel as good at the hair at the beginning, but after a week, it felt just like I got used to it, and it felt just as it was my hair.
The day I got married, I wore a lighter color wig. It was 3 times longer than my regular hair, and it was completely straight. So basically half the guests that came to the hall didn't recognize me. They thought they came to the wrong wedding hall. And then they came close, they said, oh my gosh, look at this girl looks like.
Well, I'm hoping I can just meet a man, and I won't have to go through anybody else. But it's not that easy to do that in Orthodox circles. You know, men and women don't socialize all that much. And most parties are separate. Men and women are separate. And most weddings, men and women are separate. And it's hard to approach a man without seeming really odd. And it's hard for them to approach you without you thinking that they're too modern.
And basically a shadchan, or matchmaker, calls. And a shadchan doesn't have to necessarily be an official matchmaker. It could be anybody. It could be your aunt or your cousin or your friend. And people call and they say, you know, I have a boy I want to ret to you, meaning I have a boy that I want to suggest to you. And you take down his name and his information, and the same thing is done. The shadchan, or the matchmaker, calls the boy and gives him all your information, such as where you went to school and what synagogue you belong to, and what type of person you're looking for, what type of life you want to lead, you know, general ideas to see if you're in the same realm. And after that, basically, the shadchan gets, if the shadchan has to get a yes from the boy, and then a yes from the girl, and then basically the shadchan will give the boy the phone number, and he'll call me. And then we'll speak for like a half hour, something like that, and we'll set up a date.
And then there's a pretty set system, which I'm very comfortable with, where it really goes through the person who sets it up, who isn't really a matchmaker. It's usually my friend, and it's not her profession at all. But we call her a shadchan, which does mean a matchmaker. We say, oh, did you go through the shadchan? And then this way, guy doesn't ask you out on the first date. So if you really hate him, you're not really uncomfortable. And so he just says, good night, I had a good time. And then, you know, you call the friend, whoever it was, who was a matchmaker. And you just say whether or not you like the person. And then, you know, it goes like that through about 2 or 3 dates. And then after that, you're on your own.
Usually when I go out on a date, when I take a girl out, at first, you know, like the first couple of dates, we go to like a lounge just to sit around. We have a little drink.
He picks you up, you go to a hotel lounge.
They just go to lounge.
I like to go to parks or like places outdoors where you can just walk around and enjoy the scenery, I guess, especially if you get bored and have nothing else to do.
And at the end of the day, you start talking more serious, more, as they say, hashkafa, more of the way you feel about the world, the way you feel if you're on the same wavelength, the way you want to bring up children, the way you want to live your life. That's after the third date you get more serious.
There's never a harm in going for a second date or a third date. And if I know it's no, then you kind of know that right away.
The more traditional Orthodox, they usually the only purpose that they go out is to get married. Of course to have some fun, but usually the object of going out with a girl, the objective is to see if you have some sort of chemistry with each other to eventually get married.
So I guess the qualities that I would look for in a guy would have to be the qualities that I think are important in a potential marriage partner, because that's my intention when I go out on a date.
Well, the qualities, of course, they have to be that she should be nice, and she should be someone caring, someone who could take care of the kids, of course, you know. But basically, they have to be willing to grow with me. I mean, that's the main thing, that they have to be willing not to stay the same. They want to be able to grow in Yiddishkeit, in Judaism, in learning, and I have to. It's very hard to find that in the first 2 dates, you know. But you know, we try to find as fast as possible, so we don't lead on the girl in any way.
Since I am Orthodox and it means so much to me, and yet I really want to be a part of the secular world, and I want to be a part of secular culture to some extent, even though I'm not sure if that's correct or if that's the best way, but that's the way that I found that I'm comfortable. So I would like someone who's, as religious as I am, and who prays, and who has faith, and keeps the Sabbath, and keeps kosher, and it means a lot to him, and but at the same time is interested in their profession, and is interested in making a difference, and is interested in making some kind of impact in the secular world, and will go with me to different plays, and will go with me to museums, and is good looking and intelligent.
The fact that there's no physical contact until you're married is something, it's hard, it's difficult. I won't sugarcoat it and say that's an easy thing.
No physical contact means not even holding hands at all.
But I have spoken to a lot of friends, and I know that the engagement period, or when you're dating seriously, I know that it is a really hard thing, and it's hard. There's no two ways about it.
And I've had a lot of friends that have gotten engaged, after meeting each other a couple times. And then there are people that go out on dates that go out only a couple times, maybe a couple weeks, and then they'll get engaged. And there's people like me who probably need a couple months, which I know doesn't sound like a whole lot, but in my community, people don't go out for more than 2 or 3 months, usually 2 or 3 months, or whatever it takes, but not a whole long. It's very difficult because you're not really supposed to touch each other, and so it's hard to sit on your hands for a whole lot of time, and so that's why people try to speed it up. And then they get engaged after, and they try to get married in a couple months for the same reason.
Okay, what I liked about my husband when I first went out with him was most of all his personality. I find that many times when people are brought up in a certain, per se, restrictive manner, either they tend to be very quiet because of it, or they tend to be, more quiet and more like shy, and you can't really get them to talk to a girl because it's not like they have been talking to girls their whole life.
Actually, the very first time that I met with her, I saw a certain genuinity in her manners, a certain openness and innocence that really captured my heart.
So many times, if you go out with somebody, he doesn't know how to talk to a woman. He doesn't know how to. Either he talks to them like his sister, or he talks to them like his mother. And right away, I felt that he was comfortable. He was just comfortable to talk to me, comfortable to, talk to a woman. And it wasn't something that you couldn't, by talking to him, tell that he really hasn't spoken to that many girls in his life.
If you will ask me another question, how long did it take for us to get engaged? Then the answer would be probably even more curious. And the answer would be, it took about 7 dates for us to decide that we are going to get engaged.
Chassidim don't usually go out on dates. Instead, the parents of the boy and the girl meet each other, and if they like each other and they think that their children are a suitable match, then they'll have what's called a sit-in, where the boy will come to the girl's house and maybe sit down on a living room couch with her, and they'll talk for a few hours. And if they like each other and they get along, then they'll meet 2 or 3 more times in the living room, and then they'll decide if they want to marry.
It's funny, I was in seminary, and my father calls me up and he tells me, Mindy, I just met that gorgeous guy in America. He's coming over. What? That was on a Wednesday. It's true. He did say that. I'm telling you his words. What? It was on Thursday. I was learning in England then. I was in a seminary, which is like a college in England. And it was it's like a Jewish, only girls, Jewish, and he's coming on Monday. Could you please come over for Shabbos? Come home. He's coming to Belgium. So you come from England to Belgium is only like 45 minutes, it's like nothing. No. Finish Itzi's Leben. Yeah.
You're going to have to take this part out, right?
No, because this is... There's another Leben on the table.
No.
Okay, so when Mommy gets up, you're going to get a Leben?
Huh?
Not now.
Then?
That's when.
Because he wants a chocolate Leben and he had one already. So he can't have one again, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Obviously.
I know you like it, but you had one already. You're going to get the stomach cake.
That cake's too nice.
Anyway, so my father, okay, so
no,
of course I come over for Shabbos, I was excited to come home because of just that weekend. I had a hard time there. I come home and my father tells me all about this boy, what a nice boy he is and everything, and he's coming Monday to meet you. So I go, great, good. What else should I say? What am I supposed to say, Good, I'm meeting him. He arrives Monday, and I was like, his parents come first to look at me. He wasn't with me. It's just his parents come, and they see what the girl is all about. Like, what is she? Who is she, I mean, they've heard about me. Information they know what, from what family she comes, they know all that. And then they come and look what I look like. And then like an hour or two later, he came to see me. And I don't know, after 2 hours, we decided, well, he said it's 1 hour. I say it's 3 hours. So let's make it 2 hours. After about 2 hours, he goes like, after about 2 hours, he goes, I said, yes, I like him. I just fell for him. And we're still happily married.
After the phone dating, the conversations for about 3.5 weeks, we dated for about another six and a half weeks. And then I proposed to her.
This is our first child, happens to be a son. He's 23 years old, and this is our first simcha, this is our first wedding. This is, for myself, it's an out-of-body experience.
The bedeckering ceremony, the basis of it dates back to when Rachel's father switched her with her older sister, since he felt that the custom was the older sister should get married first.
Once he has recognized that this is his betrothed, he puts the veil over her in order to state to the world that this is my betrothed and she is mine and she is no other's. And it's as if to say that no one is to gaze their eyes upon her.
The feeling that I had upon seeing my wife at the bedeckering ceremony was one of great joy and exhilaration. I had not seen her for a week prior to that moment, and seeing her beautiful face and her beautiful gown really excited me.
Joyous occasions, to me, I guess the first thing that hits me is a wedding. To me, those are very joyous. I love dancing for my friend and being just so happy for her that she's found the one that she loves and that she's going to spend the rest of her life. And it's so much fun. People in the secular world, they don't necessarily understand how it could be so much fun just to dance on separate sides of a wall, separate sides of a mechitza, just all women on one side and all men on the other. But really, I feel it's like a time to let loose, and the modesty kind of goes a little bit out the window because no one's watching you, and you just, all the friends, you put you all into it, and you just want to be misameach, the kala. You want to make the kala happy. It's definitely a little normal to feel jealous when your friend is getting married. But what usually happens is that you put your feelings aside, and at the wedding itself, you just dance and have the best time. It's kind of like when you get home, you start thinking, oh, when's it going to be my turn?
Why do we have so many children? Let's see.
Well, it's a mitzvah to
Mommy.
have a lot of children, and it's actually a blessing to have a lot of children.
Yeah.
Because God wants us to
multiply.
To multiply.
And so we're gonna have another one. We're gonna have a 4, right?
But actually, we enjoy because the beautiful part about this is that we enjoy our children together, and we enjoy them growing up every day. And it's not like, okay, I've seen this yesterday, and it's actually every day. It's what they say and how they look and what they do, and that's the beautiful part.
This is a choo-choo train.
It has to stick, no?
No, it doesn't have to stick. You see?
We're gonna stick it in this
They
room
start
on the
with
wall.
this. This is the, how's it called? Locomotive? The engine. Thank you, Yossi. In Belgium, we call it locomotive. You'll remember? No. Okay. An engine. And then he made this.
What is this?
What is this? Come here, you.
Laat je
Move
Yossi
back.
liggen weg.
You move here.
This is
This is what? Monkey.
Ah.
And it's a?
Olive.
Olive, very good. And what we do, we're gonna hang this up in his room.
I like dogs.
You like dogs? You like animals?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I like a lion.
Okay. You like to go to the zoo, right? Should we go to the zoo with you once?
Yeah.
When?
Shabbos.
Shabbos. Can't go Shabbos to the zoo.
Mommy.
Actually, Shabbos is the nicest day of the week that we have.
Best. And it's the best day of the week. You're busy. A whole week you're preparing. Wednesday you're shopping already, and Thursday you're cooking, and Friday you're busy preparing. But when it comes to Shabbos, Friday night till Saturday night, you sit and do nothing. No turning on lights. No, nothing with electronics or tearing. Everything is we don't do anything. We just rest a whole day. It's a really a nice time.
Actually, it's a gift of God. Shabbos is a gift that He gave us, which is a day that God rested, and He said that He wants us to rest. So that's what we do. Well, that's when we have time for our children, which after sundown we go to shul and we finish praying. We come back home and we have a meal with the whole family sitting there, and we sing and we eat and we learn, and we have time for every child to see how he's doing in school and study with him and go through what he learned from Torah and everything. So it's actually a beautiful experience, and it's not that we get this once a year, we get this every week.
We don't go to the movies and we don't watch TV. The content of the movies and television nowadays is just not the kind of values we want to bring our children up with. And to go and to do something and bring it into the house like a television, and to actually watch all of these shows on television and then tell your children to behave in a completely different manner, it just doesn't make sense.
We go to museums, bookstores.
Yes, bookstores is a big hit.
We take trips together.
We go to the parks.
The children go on to day camps, and maybe this year they'll go to one of them will go to summer camp. Overnight summer camp.
Some people may view Hasidic life as heavy on prohibitions and low on pleasure, but I think they have the wrong emphasis. I think many people look at Shabbos as just a day that you can't do this and you can't do that. where Shabbos is really not that way for us at all. Shabbos is a wonderful time together. We spend it with our family, and it's terrific. The telephone doesn't ring, and we don't have to go to work, and we don't, I mean, all the things that people say you can't do. There's no shopping. It's just a family time. It's a peaceful, wonderful family time. And in a way, I feel bad for people who don't understand that and don't get to enjoy the gift that it really is. So as far as people saying it's only prohibitions, it's not. And I think when you're well-grounded and you know what you think you should be doing in your life and you're doing it, I think you get a very strong sense of satisfaction from that.
I got married when I was 19 and a half. My husband was 20 and a half, and then we had children. We were blessed with children, and here we are, almost 25 years later with 10 children. Within the Jewish family, that is a very, very important part, that we are Ezer Kenegdo, that we are helpmates one to the other, that there is a division of labor, for example, and that again, that we, within our relationship, that we give each other a balance.
It definitely is not easy from a financial as well as an emotional or physical standpoint, raising such a large family, and we don't think about how we're going to be able to finance the next child. Children are a blessing. God has bestowed us a blessing, but we've managed, and with the help of God, you get by. You know, we may not always have the latest styles and the newest car and be able to go on all the trips that we would like to, but you have to know your limitations, and you have to know that you can't always have everything that you want.
I try to take each child out once a month. Each child has a date with me to give them their special time. I'm not one to promote playing hooky, but there was a time when I was home more often before I went out to work, where I would keep a child home once a month and have them all to myself, so that they would still feel that they have my undivided attention. We have holidays that enhance our family experience because family is such an important part of our lives. So much revolves around the family, whether it be Shabbos, the Sabbath, or the various holidays throughout the calendar year, that instead of looking as restrictions, they're a joy to participate in.
The story of Purim is really one of the conquest of good over evil. There was a period in Persia where there was an evil Haman, of which we have many contemporary counterparts. We had a Hitler who was very similar to a Haman. We've had lots of people like this, so the story really is a contemporary tale, whose object was to destroy the entire Jewish nation. On Purim, there's also a special mitzvah, a commandment, of dressing up in costume. So on one level, this looks like just a lot of fun, and on another level, there's something symbolic about it, which is that most of us go through life in costume often. And perhaps it's a day where we all say to each other, hey, maybe we can shed some of our costumes and take off the masks that we wear all the time and join hands and be together in a more authentic fashion. Purim is just an incredible festival. It gives us an opportunity to be with friends, to be with family in a buoyant, joyous setting.
V'yesarei שבועי בחרומי וכהנו מי וכינוסי וכינויי איידן דרנו ודishtabano.
Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are the days of awe, in particular within the Orthodox calendar, for the Jewish calendar. It is a time of reflection and introspection. The New Year's that is celebrated within the other nations is a very frivolous and time for joy and time for getting drunk and partying and so forth. And when we look upon our new year, we look with trepidation. It is a time for reflection. It is a time for prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu Chaneinu Vaneinu Avinu Malkeinu Chaneinu Vaneinu Ki Ein Bonu Masim Asei Imonu Tzedaka v'chesed Asei imanu tzedaka.
Everybody knows that Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. During this day, we ask for atonement for our sins from God.
The day before Yom Kippur, or a few days before, we have a custom of waving a chicken over our heads. Each person has one hen waved over them, unless she's pregnant, and then she gets 3 hens, one for herself, one if it's a boy, and one if it's going to be a girl. And then that hen gets sacrificed and distributed to the poor.
We take this hen and we put it on top of our heads, and we swing 1 time, a 2nd time, and a 3rd time. Basically, what we are saying when we swing those 3 times is to say and to mean, this hand is my equivalent. This hand is instead of me. This hand is my atonement. This hand will be slaughtered, and I will be saved. We still keep on doing good deeds with these animals, and we feed the poor with this chicken. So the entire process is a process of benevolence, of being nice and being kind and being generous and wanting to help other people, and of course wanting to be spared and saved for the special day of atonement, which is Yom Kippur.
I approach personally Yom Kippur with tremendous trepidation. I look at, to me, I see myself as a child trembling to the one above, my Father, in confession of the things that I have done. I take the day with tremendous seriousness. I spend the day in synagogue all day praying with the rest of the congregation. It's a day of awe. It's a day that you are coming before the King of Kings and spilling your guts out, praying for a year of prosperity, of health for your loved ones, a year of blessing.
That I could follow on Hashem's commandments and do everything that He tells me, and that I can live a life on this world the way He wants me to live. I don't know what's right and what's wrong, but the Torah teaches us what is right and what is wrong, and He's teaching me the way to live. And there's no greater satisfaction to a person when he can follow God's commandments and do what his Creator asked him to do.
And God is giving me a certain challenge that he's not giving the next person, because he knows what I can deal with, and he knows the type of person that he wants me to be, and I am always trying to live up to that ideal and try to withstand the challenges and grow from them.
There's obviously some feeling that Jews have to keep themselves separate from the other nations, which is perpetuated in things that I mentioned before, which is, not going to not being involved in the secular world. That's really where that stems from. So, not being involved in other things and trying to keep our culture on our ethnic or our traditions. Intermarriage is the single most threat to Judaism. It's above 50%, and that is exactly what ultra-Orthodox and the Orthodox movement is trying to stem, is trying to keep people Orthodox and trying to keep their traditions clear to them so that they keep it within Judaism, and they fulfill, God's law, and they create a home that has, a home that is full of love of God, and full of love for the tenets of Judaism, and not, repulsion or not rebellion, but they're trying to create homes that, that God will really be proud of, and I want to do the same.
Ay na 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 ram ma ra ra ram ki le yoy lam khazdoy yoy mano wo yisero we la la ra ram ay na ra ram ki le yoy lam khazdoy